Welcome to LUX Chats at That Creative Hub, episode 5. Keen to kick it off today with Daniel. Welcome. Thanks for making time to come into the studio.
Thanks,
Before we begin, what do you think of the studio?
I love it. It's great. And I'm wrapped that it's actually local and close to our studio because it's very different. It's got a size that we might even need to hire ourselves. So like the fact that we've got different sort of requirements and establish a great relationship with the guys here.
What are some of the cameras that you see and the mics? Talk to us.
A couple of Blackmagic cameras. Got a couple of these are some I don't know these mics. I don't have them. I've got some Rhodes and stuff like that. NTG3s. We've got lapels. A bit different, but this is great. They've got some other cameras as well that we talked about. Sony's, which we love as well. We're a Sony user, so
You've got to respect the hustle, don't you?
Yeah,
it's all about the game.
I know. We can talk all day about cameras, but we leave that for next time. Huh?
We can. But it does make sense because you are in the business of cameras, shooting people, not with guns, but with cameras. Do you want to quickly talk to us? I did hear you've been in business for about 20 years now. Let's go back and rewind a little bit. So we're going to go back to the cassettes. We're going to talk about this. Where did the story for Daniel begin?
Well, it goes very, very long time ago. I actually started when I was 15 years old. So back in like the year 2000, my uncle was a professional wrestler, and or he was teaching other people wrestling. He's a well-known local wrestler in Australia, and they needed someone to film. And I got myself behind the camera one day, and I always was good with IT and computers as a young guy, and got behind the camera and just loved it. So I ended up filming these wrestling shows, even multi-camera stuff. And I was like the first young guy in my high school to ever use Premiere because everyone was editing using, the old VHS, editing stuff. And I said, I need a computer that can actually do digital because we're using digital just started then. So I loved, filming, editing, and already got a sort of a knack for it. And by the time I finished high school, I was one of the sort of the best sort of, got the big tick of the best video ever created for the high school. It was a car chase movie, and I had to use digital. And then at uni, same thing. I studied multimedia, Bachelor of Arts, and ended up getting sort of on one of the best video projects. Did a documentary as well, which went for about half an hour.
That's a big doco.
Yeah, it was about professional wrestling as well, and that was
safe. I can tell you, it's probably safer than wrestling. So you have two choices: you get on the mat or get behind the mat,
behind the camera. Yeah. And then as I sort of was at uni, I ended up just playing around with more things. Like we ended up just learning more about cameras and. Worked at a place that taught me how to, sort of a bit more about the industry. Got into a place called Open Channel, which were a place that has courses about the video industry and also has a big studio as well as renting equipment. So while I was there, I was networking with various producers that were coming into renting equipment. And I sort of finished off there after a few months because I wanted to get out and to do the video work, not just behind sort of doing admin. And worked with a couple of producers doing 2 TV shows on Channel 31. So filming and editing and helping direct and whatnot. Did that for about 1 or 2 years. And then, fortunately enough, Vic Uni, who was my where I studied, knew my talent, and they actually emailed me out of nowhere a few months after I graduated and asked me if I can do a promotional video for Vic Uni, one of their big courses. And that was it for me. I said, you know what? I really want to start my own business. Like, I love doing the TV stuff, but I felt like I was more freelancing.
So how old were you then?
20.
Yeah,
started at 20 years old. That's where I really started my own business, got my own business card. And my dad said, look, you know what? Instead of working so hard, I was doing 12-hour days. My eyes were burning from editing. And the producers there were great and nice to work with, but they didn't have budget. And it was very hard for me to sort of, am I going to go full-time, work, so hard for someone on these hours or to do my own thing and sort of create my own business? And when my dad said, look, I know what it's like. He was a professional photographer for Channel 7 in his early years as well. He goes, I know what it's like, the grind, and it's hardcore if you burn yourself out. How about you just buy your own gear and start your own thing? And I said, yeah, I want to do that. So he helped me get a $10,000 loan for my first camera. For all you camera guys out there, it was a Sony HDR Z1P. So it was basically one of the first HD digital cameras with mini DV tapes.
You make it sound big. How big's this thing?
It's probably about that big.
Wow.
Yeah. It still works to this day. I still got it. It was a workhorse. So that was back then there was no DSLRs. No. So it was a HD camera, 1/3 chip. So it had a bit of depth, but it didn't have that real cinematic. So
did it have a little mic on top of it, or do you have separate audio?
No, it had both. So it had XLR inputs as well as a mic on top.
Yeah.
And that
It's
was
basically like Channel 7 News camera, sounds like.
sort of, but it
Almost.
was an in-betweener. It wasn't
Yeah.
like as big as those big E&G cameras you put
Yeah.
on your shoulder, but it was a great like corporate wedding camera, documentary camera. So it was a run and gun camera. For $10,000, that was a lot of money back then in 2006. So with that, I ended up buying some lighting, some mics, boom mics, and I did my first gig with Vic Uni. And then I established my business by working and networking with the right people and got into government, corporates. By the age of 26, 24, I had my first office, and 26, I started hiring full-timers.
So where was your office at?
In Essendon on a Killer Road.
You're still there now, are you? Or?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So that's so you're basically well entrenched at an early age, hence the stability of I guess you've got now, and fast forwarding to now. So what are you doing in 2025? Like what's happening at this point? So what's your business? How do you get your clients? How do you charge your clients? And what are you producing? You're still making documentaries as well.
Yeah, great question. So at the moment, things have changed a lot in the industry. So it's very much adapting to the changes. A lot of, short form content, a lot of social media content. We do a lot of that too, but I think what we've been really ingrained into is sort of, marketing videos, branded videos, as well as a lot of training as well. So we've been doing a lot of that with, government clients, corporates, a lot of SMEs as well. So we have a good mix of businesses where we can support them in different ways. So at the moment, we're looking at doing some changes as well. Like we want to do some, we're going to change the studio up this year. We're going to do some renos and do a different kind of podcast studio. We're going to use green screens instead so we can do branded podcasting. So maybe businesses want to change the backgrounds to something that suits them.
So no private jets?
No.
I've seen those ones.
Definitely not. Yeah, that's right. And then also, utilize it. What we usually do is, help and coach people to speak better on camera, get the best out of them and do a lot of, we've been doing that for many years now and getting, people to come into studio and do a lot of, say a lot of content in one day and smash out content with teleprompters and multicam setups.
So I'm going to go through that a little bit just for those that watch. Like I personally don't run off any scripts. I just like to think and just act and just work with it. But if I was to say the same thing twice, never going to happen. Yeah. But I guess when you're running an ad campaign, and I do also have a TV show, you do need teleprompters and that sort of stuff as well. And it's also just for retention and staying on track. So do you want to talk to us about what somebody needs to do prior to coming in and seeing you? What's some of the things that they should know about? So do they practice reading from a book at home? Are they practicing their tonality? What are some of those tips?
Good question. What we usually do is we send them a document that we've created, a branded document that gives them some tips and tricks.
Yep.
There's a website they can go to paste their script into, and they can practice reading off the script.
Yep.
So it looks like a teleprompter. So
Perfect.
we get them to continue to read that until they're pretty much feel like they're reading it and not having to read it.
Yeah.
So it's ingrained in their head, because especially if you're doing short form content, if it's say a minute and a half each, you can even do up to 5 minutes. As long as you know what you're talking about, it's your language. Yeah. It's going to be easy for them to read. So when they come into studio, they basically have already they know their content, but they might not be exactly, the energy might not be right. So it might take 3, 4, 5, even plus goes to get them to have the right energy so they can speak on camera the way that we need them to get that sort of right level of authentic sort of, speaking and enthusiasm, as well as, you don't want it to be too over or under. It has to be a nice sort of in middle sort of.
What normally seems to be the objection is a lot of mind clutter, the fact that they're just nervous. There's some of the things that are coming up for you, so distracted.
Sometimes, Look, I think some people, especially in the SME market, because they start their own businesses and they never really meant much sales, and they go, look, I don't like to be in front of camera. It's all about the way that we try to get their mindset to think, basically imagine speaking into, speaking to someone in a sales meeting or in front of a group of people. How would you set yourself up and speak to them? So get them into this mindset that they're speaking to, either one person or a big audience. That's their, that's their target market.
I guess too, the other thing I want to sort of lead into, and I haven't seen your studio yet, it'll be next week, but I want to talk about then too, sometimes you don't have to do your own speaking. No. When you're running your own business, the next step up, so there's 2 camera, which would be like kind of what we're doing now. So hello there, to camera. Then there's presenting your brand in a different way. So let's say you're elevating your brand, you're time poor, you're traveling. What happens next? So that next level of videography, you're doing a paid ad that might go for 30 seconds to 1 minute for social media.
Yep.
how do you source the right actors? How do you get the script right? What does that person or business need to do?
That's a great question. So this is why...
Only great questions here at LUX Chats.
Of course. Look, this is why I run an agency, and I'm, everyone goes, oh, you're a videographer. Well, yes, I started as a videographer, but now I run an agency with different people who have different talents in the business. So, I'm a great cinematographer, and I obviously speak to my clients and run many of the projects, but I need the right people in my team to do the right job. Yeah. So, for example, our producer, Paul, will be the ones, he'll be dealing with our clients to get the right script right, to get the brand right, to understand what the business is about, so we can create all that content ready for shooting. So that's what one of our guys do. Then I get involved. So my team and myself will go and shoot if it's on site or if it's in studio, whatever it is. And we've got everything prepared. So that way, when we're on shoot, nothing goes wrong. And I'll tell you, this is where things go wrong. Yeah. A lot of people might just go out and get a camera, just shoot. You can't, depending on the shoot, if it's an event, which we do a lot of, no problems. If you're going to a shoot where there's testimonials or someone speaking to camera or even using an actor or presenter, you do need to do the prep right, because everything else will fall once you go into production. After the production, once that's all done, obviously post-production. So I've got my team to do that. And our post-production team's awesome. Like, we do everything from, standard editing all the way to animation, branded animation, the whole lot.
Animation's in something you can do as well.
Yeah, definitely. We're doing we've got a tender with the State Revenue Office at the moment. Yeah. We're creating all the explainer videos for their website. So if you ever see those videos about our taxes that we've got to pay.
You know what we could do?
Yeah.
And this is not a challenge to that creative hub. Maybe you could make something very small animated and we could sneak it into this clip.
We could do that.
There you go.
We actually, yeah.
Proudly sponsored by Daniel.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So let's go into this. So if you don't mind if I go into a personal route, if that's okay for a second. So you've touched on what Dad did, Mum. So obviously you got a very entrepreneurial flair to you. So what was your mum doing all this time?
Well, really, she was more of a house mum. Like, she looked after us. She did a bit of work on the side, like a bit of babysitting, a bit of childcare, and she was more like looking after us, I suppose, in those early years when my dad was sort of doing all the he had a photography studio in his garage. Yeah, excuse me, and then working full time for the government after Channel 7. Yeah. So I think my mum helped him a little bit with that sort of admin side as well. So she's the talker in the family. Yeah. My dad's probably more of the, well, actually, wait a minute. She does have art in her family. Yeah. And my dad's got art in his family. Both got a bit of entrepreneurial sides from the grandparents as well. So it's a bit of a mix. Yeah,
I just think so. Just being going into business so early. Also, we have everyone from 18 through to 70 on this podcast, and obviously people I talk to. But it's some people don't make the jump from 9 to 5 until 40, 45. And you go to yourself, well, why is that? Like, are you actually happy to conform? Are you happy being having somebody just relying on paying your own wages? There is some stresses in owning your business. So have been any times that you felt like giving up?
Oh yeah, many times. Yeah. I made some major mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, I can talk about this all day, and we're going too deep into this, but I nearly lost everything in my early 30s. Yeah. Made some major mistakes. Had to reset everything, restart. Even just, like silly things like spending too much money on things that I thought would work, didn't work. I remember last year, for example, was it 2 years ago? Our website, it was a couple of years ago, through this developer, it got hacked. It was hacked so badly. Telstra wouldn't let anyone that had Telstra let into our website. Wow. And we were spending money on AdWords, we had SEO, we were ranking number one, like not number one, number one on Google, page one on Google, probably third or fourth or something like that. The amount of business we lost through those months where Telstra was blocking, just all these silly things that could happen in your business. You're like, oh my gosh, you're like, how do we control this? And you can't. You're sort of like tied up thinking, okay, right now all we can do is like get in touch with all these people, fix up the website, get in touch with Telstra saying, look, unblock it. There's nothing wrong with it. It took months. So all these stresses.
That's a massive challenge. Especially technical as well. It's a crazy story.
Yeah, thanks.
What about places on site where somewhere? Tell me something luxy. Have you done some really cool hotel shoots? Have you done some car shoots? Have you seen some spectacular weddings?
Oh, yeah.
Give us something glamorous.
Oh, gosh. All right. The most glamorous shoot? I say the most craziest shoot I've done.
Let's go crazy.
I was 25 years old.
Yeah.
I was filming in South Africa at the World Cup.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Wow.
I was like, I made a documentary at the World Cup, and I took my camera, the one I was telling you about, 2010, and that was incredible. Like traveling around with the camera with this Australian crew, I got to film.
Reminds me of a movie. You're the little cameraman cruising around on a little road
Pretty
trip
much.
there.
Yeah.
You're getting behind the scenes. You're getting to talk to all the players and all the people.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Then the roar of the crowd, because there would have been that anticipation going up to the World Cup.
Oh,
And then you're just hearing rah.
it was so awesome. Yeah. I wasn't able to bring the professional camera into the actual stadium. That wasn't allowed. But we were documenting everything around the country with the Aussies and doing enjoying the whole trip. So that was really cool to do something,
Did
at
you
a
feel
young
safe?
age. I did, because we were about 150 people.
I guess,
big
safety in
group.
numbers. That's
yeah,
a lot of people.
It was a big group. But I think what I got out of that was, I felt like my real creativity came out of me, because, sometimes we're stuck doing the same old grind when you work with clients that want what they want. You can't step out of that. When you're filming something like that, you can just go up to people and say, can we do this? Can we do that? Work with guys that are really fun and creative, and just, I remember we did one day at this place. It was one of those centers where they're helping some young people that had obviously, they didn't have homes.
Crisis centers.
It was really sad to see. But we did some amazing stuff. Adidas sponsored some, these soccer balls, and we were able to give it to them. So I documented all that on camera, and out of that, we created a mini 5 to 10 minute doco about the whole situation, and what, and interviewing many people there that are knowing, what's going on, what's the hardships they're facing, what are they doing about it, and having that, just a day in that, and seeing these young kids happy, and I got a photo of them on my Facebook. It's still one of my old profile photos. And we drove off that day, and these kids were crying, running after the bus. Think, oh, geez,
Did you take their soccer balls?
Yeah, we left them with them. I swear, but they just loved our energy and our I suppose our support, and
So
But
I
just
guess
having that,
I guess having the camera has not only given you an income, but giving you access all areas. I think that's all we need to do is just carry around the camera and just part of that. So we talked about the craziest thing you've done, but let's go. I want to go back to luxury and insane. All right.
Yep.
Is there another event that you can think of that is more Melbourne related?
Oh, one of the craziest weeks of my life was the end of 2019. I had my wedding booked for that week, and about 2 months prior to our wedding, I had a contact call me and ask me, "Can you do something at the Melbourne Cup?" So of course we can, for VRC. This project was supposed to be something really small, a couple of cameras, couple of crew, whatever. It ended up being a 20-person crew. We ended up covering celebrity interviews, same day edits, cameras on TV, all the video, all placed around the Melbourne Cup. So I had to manage that, control this whole project, and had my wedding the same week. So after Stakes Day, I had my wedding. It was insane, but the best week of my life.
That's a lot of pressure too, because behind the scenes in those, those production areas, you're going. You haven't got a second to stuff up. You're basically live to camera.
We had so many, the first day was the most scary sort of, anxious day, because you're trying to fine tune things that could, obviously go wrong. The first day I remember we filmed, and this is going back a few years ago. So when we were doing 4K transfers, we found that it was too slow, because we had to do same day edits. And there was also videos that had to be done within half an hour. So we just made it by a minute. We had it filmed. We had the guys talking about the hunting stuff, right? So we had this guy film it. One of our crew had to run the SD card to the editing suite, get it all edited, get the same guy to run. We didn't have time to upload the files because the files are too big. We had to get the guy to run back to the social media guys at VRC. We made it within a minute, because it had to be done before Channel 10 spat out some of their content. So
how far was he running?
Oh, it was probably at least half a kilometer, even more. I think I was just I remember we were swearing. We were get this shit done. So it was crazy. But once we figured out the first day, everything was so smooth. On the last day, which was Stakes Day, because we did about 6-7 days of production, I went out, got a haircut for my wedding, got my beard done, and I could leave. And my whole crew were taking care of it. So it's one of those things where once you know the grind.
Once you're adapted.
It was amazing. I couldn't. That's probably the most fun, craziest events.
So you would have just obviously initially quoting on a couple of cameras, and then how did you find out that the heat was going to be all on you?
It was more just it grew over time. It was okay, we wanted to do this, and this. So I had to grow the team. And
you just kept saying yes.
Yeah,
you don't know how to say no.
No, don't know how to say. Well, when you do a production, what I believe in, and this is what I think I'm really good at, is bringing talent together.
Yeah.
I love production. But what I really love is managing and bringing the right team together to make the best thing ever. I believe we can do anything if you get the right talent. I can't do everything on my own. And I think that's where a lot of I'll say a lot of freelancers could
Yeah.
fail. And
Yeah.
I believe that they put too much stress on themselves, saying, I need to edit, film, produce, script, do social media.
Even
It's
my
like,
videographer that I have, and it does a lot of my my edits. So what will happen, he gets to a point now, he can't make the event.
yeah.
Because I'm going to send in Frankie Boy or whoever.
Yep.
And he goes, it's in good hands. He knows what to shoot. He knows
Exactly.
what you want.
Yep.
And I just trust that the video is going to come out because it's getting his style or flair.
That's right.
It's the same content. It's just shot a different way.
Yep.
And then sometimes also with that, I get a few extra surprises. I'm like, oh, I didn't see that angle, didn't do this. Worst thing that can happen is it flops. But you really hope, he said, you don't want to, especially working with Melbourne Cup with 1 minute to spare. You almost like, I'm going to call you gone in 60 seconds. So
I love it.
that's it. Obviously, we've covered all the past, and you've run around, and you've gone from analog to digital and all that. But you talked a little bit earlier about green screens. We sort of joked around in terms of putting some branding together. But AI, like I'm using ChatGPT, people are making up stuff there. So how's that going to change the industry and change exactly what you're doing? Because some of this stuff you wouldn't even need to do anymore. But if you use the tool correctly, how do you think it's going to change?
I believe AI is going to be a great tool for creators. And I think there is some scarcity around it because I think creators think that it's going to take over the industry. You can't take over everything. I think what AI does is bring a flair that we didn't have before, and also creates speed to our productions. So for example, like you said, you can go to ChatGPT and it writes a better email, a better script for you, cleans things up within seconds, where before, how long would it take to get that done? Same with creative, like even video and editing, like we're looking at better ways of utilizing AI. Right now, I think it's a great it's a touch-up tool for us. I was speaking to someone recently that does a lot of AI videos, and she uses AI in her business to help businesses that might have missed a shot or can't do something with motion graphics or 3D animation because it costs too much.
Yeah.
So AI can fulfill those gaps. And I think it's really important that we use AI effectively because, everything's changing really quick. We need to adapt to that, but we also got to be careful.
So really you're using it to, as I said, to fill in the gaps, to come up with creative ideas. And ultimately too with AI, it's more about the question that you ask it, is what it delivers. So you need to know the prompts and how that's going to be delivered. I'm interested to see certainly how that's going to change videos and creative input going forward, because it is all about in your creative. I think all it does is add 20 points to your IQ, and the content's only going to get better. So very excited to see what's happening.
Thanks, mate. I was going to say be careful. I was going to say be careful that we don't overuse it because it could be unauthentic at the moment. Just hit me with that little bit. Because that might be a good one for you, to put in there. Because hit us with that point and I'll run in. Okay, cool. So I think we've got to be careful that we don't overuse AI as well, especially depending on what type of content you're creating, because it could look unauthentic at the moment. People can see the difference. I think over time it's going to change and develop so well, even now, that it looks so realistic that you can't really tell the differences between real or not real. But I think there is a place and a time for that. And, we still got to film and create things from scratch, because we're talking right now, this can't be all AI. It could be potentially if we just get a photo of our faces and say what we want to say and put it into a script.
Well, the reason it can't be AI is because it comes from creative thought. That's right. And we speak from impulse.
Exactly.
So it's that there, I don't believe can create.
That's right, and that's why it's not. This is unscripted, and with AI, it has to be scripted.
All right, so we're gonna change gears a little bit. Okay, we're gonna talk about some luxury things in your life. Okay, you've been prepped on this question, but we can throw some things at you. Okay, so first of all, question one. Tell us somewhere, and obviously married to beautiful Rach, which is great. Yeah. Where's somewhere either A, you can give me two answers to this, you love to travel, and then secondly, you'd love to travel together with her?
Well, we missed out on our honeymoon because we got married end of 2019, and we actually booked in our honeymoon Europe trip in mid 2020, and everyone knows what happened mid 2020. So that was cancelled, and we have no honeymoon. So it would be great to do one day to organise another Europe trip. That was supposed to be like a couple of months.
Which sort of countries? Top couple of countries?
It was pretty much widespread. We're going to go from like the UK up to like, we're even going to go Ibiza for my 35th birthday, which didn't happen, and travel down all the way down Europe. And we're going to go to, because my mum's from Italy, my dad's from Malta, go to Italy, Malta, and all the surrounding sort of countries around that as well. Yeah. But now we've got 2 young kids. So during COVID, we had kids instead, and we've got a so we got a 1.5-year-old and a 3.5-year-old, and we're like, we just can't travel with these two.
Names
kids.
Co and then Vid. Or?
Yeah,
no, that's all right. I'm just joking.
You're way too crazy to let them get out. I couldn't imagine traveling with them now. It's just their real energy.
Well, don't park it too long. It's something you can do.
Yeah.
And do that. And the cars. Let's talk about cars and that sort of stuff. Have you got something you'd love to drive?
Oh gosh.
You Ferrari man, Lamborghini man.
I've driven Ferrari once before.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. That's a good question. Probably I do love the size of like the style of the Lambos.
Yeah.
No specific sort of models, but I do love old school, to be fair. I've actually got a couple of old school
the
cars.
classics. You're not going to go back in 30 years from now and we go, oh, we're just going to go to the car show and there's the Tesla and the I don't know, just the Ford Ranger.
It's going to be
stock
standard.
It's not going to cut it.
Yeah.
Cut it.
Today actually was funny. This morning I had to go and take my HZ 308. I've got a 1-tonner. It's going to get sprayed soon, so we have to take it to a mechanic.
With a flat.
Flat tray.
Flat tray.
So I want to get the flat tray in the back.
Nice big fat wheels on the back of it.
Yeah, it's nice. You'd like it. It's got to spray black again. Or
LSD.
Yes. It's got a 9-inch diff. It's a standard.
They're carby models too, aren't they?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Big 4-barrel carby.
Sounds beautiful when you start that up. I mean, nothing beats old school, but look, I was talking to my wife about this. Like, even a nice old school GTS or something. Like, I don't mind some of the old Fords as well. Like, it's not just have to be Holdens. I've got an old Tirana as well, LC.
They're getting rare, aren't they?
Yeah, but mine's a 4-cylinder. So anyone that wants to buy it, I love it, but I think there's got to be space, and that's one thing I like to have is maybe a bigger home with a bigger garage. We don't have that garage space to put all these cars in, so one day I might have to start looking at selling these and buying one nice.
So luxury doesn't always have to be new; it can be old as well.
Yeah,
because it's appreciated over time. It's also an investment.
Yeah.
All right. So last thing here. So for the audience, anybody looking to start their own business or take that leap of faith, is there a message that you'd like to put out there today that somebody might listen to, maybe a younger version of you, and say take the jump?
Well, I'd say there's only one way to find out. I suppose, at the beginning it's really scary because you don't know if you're going to be able to get work. I used to guest lecture at Vic Uni and do a lot of these sort of lectures about business, and the thing I used to always say is networking is key. Without the networks you can't start a business, because the first thing you rely on are the people around your network.
Of course.
You don't have a budget to go and spend 10 grand a month or 5 grand a month, even $1,000 a month on network on marketing instantly, because you're just starting up. So how can you do that without having that foundation? Do that first. I think networking is key. Build your relationships,
to
see
build your
where
brand,
it goes.
build your people.
And then grow your brand. I mean, the brand doesn't have to be personalized. It can be like I started a company style brand because I wanted to look bigger and better at the beginning. So I was about aesthetics. I wanted to look like a big brand because it works with corporates and government. And it worked for me because I didn't want to be Daniel Collegiate Productions. So think about what you want from the business perspective. Is it going to be this or is it going to be that? And then you can gradually change it as you go. But I think it's all about that networking.
Perfect. Good tips. Well, thanks for being a great guest on LUX Chats. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you again soon.